Alright, y'all, so today I want to make a very quick video to review the new 52T Titans Volume 2, the culling. So I want to give you my thoughts on this volume, if there's any improvements from Volume 1, the pros and cons, and my overall opinions, like always. The kind of general synopsis and the vibe of this volume once you're going into it is it follows up on the cliffhanger from the last volume. We meet Harvest. Inside the nowhere base called the Colony. Harvest has basically taken all the T-Titans, pushed them into this event called the Culling. Kind of view it as like the metahuman version of the Hunger Games. Metahumans fight each other. The ones who win basically become these guys called the Ravengers, who work for Nowhere and Harvest. And all these characters, the T-Titans, are kind of roped into it. They're also they're also kind of tortured and tormented a little bit by this other character called Omen, who works with Nowhere. After all that stuff, they get kind of new suits, which look very Tron inspired, in my opinion. They look like they come out of a Tron movie. But the T-Titans are kind of thrown into this game alongside another set of superheroes called the Legion Lost, kind of the Legion of Superheroes, if you will. And basically, they kind of create this elaborate plan. One group is designed to destroy the power core of the base and get also all these captured metahuman kids out of there. And the T-Titans will hold off Harvest for as long as they can to buy everyone time. This eventually succeeds. The colony gets destroyed. And then the rest of the volume kind of turns into a more of a exploration of Wonder Girl. We get more of her backstory here, how she even got her silent armor. We meet her very cringy name for a boyfriend, very stereotypical ex name, Diesel, and we basically have to stop Diesel's plan from not only taking all the silent armor for himself because he had some from the past, but also trying to take over the world with it, which the T-Titans do, sort of. Wonder Girl reclaims her silent armor. Her boyfriend is kind of, or ex, I guess, is kind of presumed to be severely weakened or possibly dead. And there's also some other things that happen in the background with the relationships, like it's kind of established Solstice and Flash are becoming a thing, and in general, sort of the team dynamics are kind of coming into place here. But my thoughts on this, Volume 2 or Volume 1. Well, I will say this. I feel like Volume 2 is a much more, at least a little bit, slightly more interesting volume than Volume 1. There's a bit more happening here that interests me. They explore the characters a little bit more. You get more of the team's dynamics here and their personalities. And it feels like over time, maybe the writers will start to dive deeper into their backstories. And I really enjoy that aspect of the comic. For big pros, I really enjoyed a lot of the Wonder Girl stuff. Half of this volume is focusing on Wonder Girl's development. We get a full-on backstory to her, what her life was before the T-Titans, how she got the silent armor, and the whole plot with her defeating her ex is really cool, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was a really cool exploration of her character and really got the deep down, figure out what she was all about, and really, because like I said, it was very surface level in the first volume. And here, they kind of much more explored. And I really, really do enjoy it. So that whole part of the comic is really good. And I also like a lot of the team members and how their dynamics are forming. There's also the stereotypical thing of, oh, they're teenagers, so they're obviously in relationships. But a lot of them do feel kind of natural here, like Solstice and Flash, or Kid Flash being a thing, which is kind of being established in this comic or this volume, I think makes sense, especially considering what happened in the first volume. It's kind of unclear in terms of Wonder Girl's relationships. It's a bit unclear. I mean, it seems like she's leaning towards Superboy, but we will wait and see. And in general, like I said, I did like a lot of the storylines here. The Culling was an alright section of the volume. I just think it was mostly just them getting their butts whooped by Harvest. And then we kind of have a weird interlude where they go to this like mysterious dinosaur island. And there's kind of an out-of-pocket issue with Kid Flash trying to save the world from these human/genetic hybrid dinosaurs, which was straight up some Jurassic 4 concept art vibes right there. But like I said, I think, the Culling storyline was decent. I did like the fact that the Legion Lost were there. And, some aspects of that storyline were pretty nice and interesting. They kind of touch upon Solstice a little bit and kind of maybe they kind of like make her backstory more intriguing. and they kind of established some things with her, which I'm hoping they'll follow up more in the future. And like I mentioned before, I really like the Wonder Girl stuff. I also felt like, too, this time around, there was less cringy dialogue. Now, there's still some dialogue here and there that's hit and miss, but I did think the dialogue got a little bit better. And I think, too, like most New 52 titles, the artwork is still very solid and really well drawn. At least more like the main artist and Scott, the writer of the series, coming together. I think the quality of the artwork has never really failed to disappoint me. They all look really good, and I love how all the characters are drawn, and it's always really well done. There's sometimes a jarring. Sometimes they kind of switch artists and they kind of go back and forth, but the new artists they got for the later issues in this volume still work really well for the series. I like the designs. I like the paneling. I don't have any complaints and obvious errors with that. I even like Wonder Girl's full armor getup. It looks strange and ancient, and even kind of drops some hints of its origin, which they name drop Trigon, which, if you know anything about T-Titans, huge name right there. But yeah, really cool stuff. Now I'm gonna get into some of my cons with this volume, because like the previous volume 1, it's not perfect. I think for one thing, Red Robin here is still kind of an asshole. It just feels like, to me, there's like scenes where like you really think he could develop as a person, and he just doesn't. And it gets a bit annoying. Like, for example, he's like kind of an ass to Bunker at some point in the comic when asked to talk about his issues. And then he also, like I said, Wonder Girl kind of doesn't really learn anything, and she kind of becomes even more stoic at the end. And it's kind of as a result, or at least indirectly, Red Robin, how he's so secretive about his identity and how him always not being there for the team. Like I said before, I don't think he's a great leader. And I think there really needs to be some development on that front to make him a better leader and just better writing in general. Superboy, too, is here in the comic, but I think he also gets a shaft. And like I said, I get it. He has his own series. But I still think readers need to get a grasp of who he is and need more development in the T-Titans series. I mean, if you're going to put him as part of the T-Titans, you got to develop his character. So I think you had to have, at least maybe they could have thrown in some Superboy issues into this trade or something that could help develop his character. And I think in general, the culling, at least the first half of the comic felt a little bit underwhelming. It's like Harvest is a threatening villain, and we get a little bit more hints of his backstory, which I found very interesting. And I think that, like I said, what they did was absolutely heroic, them holding them off. But I don't know, the whole event feels kind of underwhelming, and it feels kind of big. And also the Legion Lost characters just kind of get randomly introduced and name dropped. And I get it. They have their own New 52 series. And I had to do a little bit of research on them before I made this video. And I really enjoy them. But I do really wish, like I said before, there was some context for who these guys were and the natural progression of events. Because it kind of picks up on a cliffhanger, but it feels like we missed an issue or two. And I don't know if I missed something reading Volume 2 from Volume 1, right? So that was a big con, and I just think overall the event kind of felt a little bit underwhelming. I really thought they could have done more of the culling. Instead of just them immediately facing off against Harvest, they could have actually fought other metahumans for quite a while, maybe explored the Hunger Games concept, and then when it got to a desperation point, and then they could coordinate with the Legion Lost, and just make it, like I said, a gradual escape plan and plan of action. Like I said, the first issue in the comic, they immediately have come up with a plan and they're going to immediately enact on it. And it just, like I said, it just kind of makes the event a little bit underwhelming and not full of build-up and suspense that I think was needed. But, like I said, where the culling, I think, kind of fails the event itself. I think the comic does shine because we do focus a lot more on Wonder Girl. We get a full exploration of her backstory. Even with the generic, X coming back for revenge storyline, it still felt more intriguing and interesting than what was going on in the culling. So I think writing-wise, aspects of the comic still need major improvement. But, yeah. So overall, that's my main cons for Volume 2 going into it. A slightly better volume than Volume 1, but not by much. Still, there's some weak writing, some weak characterization, and some weak dialogue, and some weird lack of character development and choices here. But I do think there are some tiny baby steps moving to the right direction towards something that could be really, really great. But overall, still a pretty decent volume, slightly better than Volume 1. Yeah, so that was the new 52T Titans Volume 2, the culling. All right, y'all. Have a good day and peace, y'all.